At 87, Jane Fonda still carries the same grace that once made the world stop and stare. Time may have softened her features, but her charm, wisdom, and courage have only deepened. When she recently opened up about the 7 singers she secretly fell for, people didn't expect the honesty that followed. She didn't name them to shock anyone. She did it because, at her age, she no longer feels the need to hide the emotions that shaped her youth. For Jane, love wasn't always about being in a relationship. Sometimes it was about admiration, inspiration, and the magic of a voice that touched her soul. Her eyes sparkled as she admitted that through the decades, music had been her secret companion. Every song, every note, every performance reminded her of something she once felt: desire, heartbreak, or wonder. These 7 singers, she said, became part of her journey, even if they never knew it. Jane has lived a life filled with fame and challenges. She's an actress and activist, a woman who has fought her way through heartbreaks, political storms, and personal reinventions. But behind all that strength lies a woman who loved deeply, even from afar. She laughed softly when she revealed that some of her crushes were unexpected. "I was in love with voices before faces," she said. "Back then, a song could make me feel things I couldn't say out loud." Her confession wasn't about gossip. It was about memory and feeling human again. The first singer she mentioned was one the world adored, Elvis Presley. She was just a young actress when his music began to sweep the nation. Jane said she never met him in person, but she used to play his records over and over in her small apartment. His voice made her heart race. "Elvis had that dangerous sweetness," she admitted. "You could feel both rebellion and tenderness in him." She smiled, remembering how, in those early years, she imagined what it might be like to dance with him, not on a stage, but in a quiet room, just the two of them and a slow song playing in the background. But it wasn't just about attraction. Jane respected Elvis as an artist who changed culture. "He made it okay to feel wild," she said. "And that gave a lot of us permission to stop pretending we didn't have desires." Her second secret crush came from a different world: Sam Cooke. His smooth, soulful tone, she said, felt like sunlight through curtains. She was drawn to the sadness in his voice, the softness behind his strength. There was something about the way he sang love songs, Jane recalled. It was like he was whispering truths no one else dared to say. Jane's life was filled with movement, from movie sets to political marches, but music like Sam Cooke's grounded her. She said his songs made her believe in love, even when her own relationships were falling apart. "He made pain sound beautiful," she said softly. Her third confession took everyone by surprise: Bob Dylan. She laughed when she mentioned him, calling him the poet I didn't understand at first. But later in life, his words became her companions during lonely nights. "I fell in love with his honesty," she said. "He didn't sing to please anyone. He sang to wake people up." Jane revealed that Dylan's songs often reminded her of her own rebellious nature. "I saw myself in his defiance," she explained. "We both had this fire that sometimes scared people." She even attended one of his concerts alone, hiding under a hat just to feel the crowd's energy. The fourth singer was a man whose voice filled the 1960s with hope: Harry Belafonte. Jane said her admiration for him went beyond attraction. "He stood for something," she said firmly. "He wasn't just handsome or talented, he had courage." Jane met Belafonte once at a charity event. She remembered how his calm voice carried warmth that few people possessed. "When he spoke, everyone listened," she said. "I didn't just fall for the singer. I fell for the man who used his art to fight injustice." Her connection to him was rooted in shared ideals. Both had used their fame to speak about civil rights, to challenge systems, to make people uncomfortable for the right reasons. "He reminded me that beauty is nothing without purpose," she said. Then she spoke about her fifth crush, one she said she kept to herself for decades: Paul McCartney. "He was the dream," she confessed with a laugh. "Every woman of that time had a Beatles face. Mine just never ended." Jane said McCartney represented innocence mixed with artistry. "He made romance seem simple again," she said. "When he sang about love, you believed him." Even now, she admitted that hearing Here, There, and Everywhere brings tears to her eyes. Her admiration for Paul wasn't about fame or looks. It was about the emotional purity he brought to music. "He reminded me that love doesn't have to be complicated," she said. "Sometimes it's just about feeling something pure for a moment." But Jane's sixth revelation went a little darker: Jim Morrison. "He was dangerous in the most beautiful way," she said. You could tell he was battling his demons, and I think I was drawn to that chaos. Jane never met Morrison, but she once saw him perform. She remembered standing in the crowd, watching him move like someone possessed by the music. It wasn't just a concert, she said. It was a storm. And I was mesmerized. She admitted that Morrison represented a kind of freedom she envied. He didn't care about approval, she said. He just existed, raw and unfiltered. That scared me, but it also made me admire him deeply. Her final confession brought the room to a gentle silence. Leonard Cohen. Jane described him as the poet of longing. She said his songs didn't just speak of love, they exposed its shadows. He understood loneliness better than anyone, she said. And I think that's why I loved him. Cohen's music, Jane explained, became a companion during her quieter years. There were nights when I'd pour a glass of wine, sit by the window, and just listen to him. His voice felt like company, like someone who understood. When Jane finished sharing her list, there was no trace of regret in her tone, only peace. She said falling in love, even silently, had kept her human through all the chaos of fame. You don't need to be with someone to love them, she said. Sometimes love is just the act of feeling deeply and letting it shape you. She added that each of these singers gave her something lasting. Elvis taught her to be bold. Sam Cooke taught her tenderness. Dylan taught her truth. Belafonte taught her purpose. McCartney reminded her of innocence. Morrison showed her wildness. Cohen taught her depth. And perhaps, in that mix of emotions, Jane discovered herself. I've lived through revolutions, heartbreaks, and reinventions, she said. But those voices, they never left me. They were the soundtrack of my becoming. Even at 87, Jane Fonda still believes in the power of love, not as something to possess, but something to feel. She said that falling for music, and for the people who created it, was her way of staying alive inside. You never really stop loving, she said. You just learn to carry it differently. As the interview ended, Jane smiled and said something that stayed with everyone. If you live long enough, she whispered, you realize love doesn't fade, it transforms. And in that moment, it was clear, the girl who once dreamed to Elvis and cried to Cohen still lived inside her. Time could not take that away. After revealing the names of the 7 singers who touched her heart, Jane Fonda leaned back with a gentle smile. Her voice softened, almost like she was speaking to herself. You know, she said, love isn't always about people you date or marry. Sometimes it's about the people who remind you you're still capable of feeling. At this stage in her life, Jane doesn't hide from her emotions. She has nothing left to prove, no image to protect. What remains is honesty, raw and unfiltered. She said that looking back, those silent crushes helped her survive the loneliness that came with fame. She talked about how fame can be isolating. People assume stars are surrounded by love and attention, but Jane said it's often the opposite.